Mr. Durham, DOJ policy provides that you don't speak about a pending investigation, and yet you did, didn't you?
I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to.
When the Inspector General issued a report saying that the investigation was properly predicated, you spoke out in violation of Department of Justice policy to criticize the Inspector General's conclusions, didn't you?
I issued a public statement. I didn't do it anonymously. I didn't do it through third persons. But
nonetheless, you violated department policy by issuing a statement while your investigation was ongoing, didn't you?
I don't know that. If I did, then I did, but I was not aware that I was violating some policy.
And you also sought to get the Inspector General to change his conclusion, did you not? When he was concluding that the investigation was properly predicated, did you privately seek to intervene to change that conclusion?
This is outside the scope of the report, but if you want to go there, we asked the Inspector General to take a look at the intelligence that's included in the classified appendix that you looked at, and said that that ought to affect portions of his report.
And you thought it was appropriate for you to intervene with an independent investigation by the Inspector General because he was reaching a conclusion you disagreed with. You thought that was appropriate.
That's not, the premise isn't right. The Inspector General circulated a draft memo to a number of agencies and persons. Our group was one of them. We were asked to review that draft and bring to his attention any concerns that we had or disagreements.
And when he refused to change his report, you violated
Mr. Chairman, I insist on regular order.
Mr. Durham, returning to your decision to speak out during the pendency of your investigation, did you have staff on your team advise you against making statements during the pendency of your investigation?
They didn't advise me either way, no.
Did any of your staff raise ethical concerns about your speaking out either in an interim report or after the Inspector General investigation? Any of your staff raise ethical concerns with your doing so?
Not that I recall, no. Raise a technical concern? No, not that I'm aware of.
Did they raise concerns with your speaking out during the pendency of the investigation?
Time of the gentleman has expired. The witness can respond.
I'm sorry.
Did any of your staff raise concerns about your speaking out during the pendency of your investigation in contrast to DOJ policy?
Not that I recall.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Durham.
Can I just complete that answer, Warren? But I don't want to lay any blame at their part. I made that decision to make a statement. They were not involved in it. Right, Nora Danahy.
Gentlelady from Florida.
Right. Nora Danahy, a friend of mine, a very good lawyer, an honest person.
Why did she resign?
That's Nora Danahy. That's why we brought her on.
Why did she resign?
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman
answer the question if you'd like. Thank you. I just want to follow up on my question before. Nora Danahy was a very well-respected member of your team. Why did she resign?
I'm sorry?
Nora Danahy was a very well-respected member of your team. Why did she resign?
Yeah, that's not part of the report, and I'm not going to discuss internal matters management.
Did she resign over disagreements she had with you about how you were handling the investigation?
It's not part of the report. I'm not going to discuss it.
It's not part of the report,
highest regard for Ms. Danahy.
But you know the answer, Mr. Durham. Why won't you tell us?
Because that's not part of the report. That's not part of the mission, and I'm not going to discuss internal discussions. I can tell you this, that with respect to every major decision that was made by our team, every agent and every lawyer had full voice in expressing their opinions, and we proceeded accordingly with me making the final
Some
decision.
voted with their feet to leave your office.
The time of the gentlelady has expired.
Mr. Durham, did you seek communications pertaining to someone named Mr. Bernard from a federal district judge?
I'm not, assuming that prosecutors go to judges for certain kinds of orders, they are typically sealed proceedings. I'm not speaking.
Did you seek an order
direct to your question, but I'm not going to comment on anything that I believe is under seal.
Did you seek a court order to obtain personal communications pertaining to Mr. Bernard?
I'm not going to speak beyond the report on that point, and I'm not going to violate any sealing orders.
I don't think it violates any sealing orders to tell us if you sought personal communications by court order. Did you?
Again, it's beyond the report.
Well, let's not even
subject
make it
to sealing
specific
orders.
to a person. Did you seek court orders to obtain particular records And were you denied by the judge?
I think the question is, you know,
No,
intended
the
to
question is
suggest
what
that I don't
the
want to
question is what
disclose something I'm
The question is what I
uncomfortable
asked you, Mr. Durham. You get to give the answer, not the question. The question is, did you seek a court order to get records from a judge pertaining to private communications, and were you turned down by the judge for lack of a sufficient basis?
And I've told you
Yes
that
or no?
it's beyond the report. I don't think I'm authorized to talk about it, and I'm not going to violate
It's
any.
not beyond the
orders.
report. It's not beyond the report.
You see anything in the report about that?
Yes. Did you seek an order, and were you turned down? And then did you seek to go around the court order by going to the grand jury?
No. You like to know what that was about?
What I would like to know, Mr. Durham, is did Mrs. Danahy, who resigned from your team, raise ethical concerns about your trying to go around the court order?
To my knowledge, no.
Then why did she leave?
I told you before, previously, that I have the highest regard for Ms. Danahy. Ms. Danahy and I are friends. Ms. Danahy, like everybody.
You know why she left, right?
I'm not
You
sure
do know the
why
answer
she
to the
left.
question. You know why she left, right?
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Mr. Durham, your report attempts to make a case that the Clinton investigations of Clinton were given more favorable treatment to that of President Trump. But you leave out one very notable example, and that is your report makes no discussion of the fact that the email investigation into Hillary Clinton was made very public before the election, was it not? You had James Comey discussing Hillary Clinton's emails in the days leading up to the election?
If I follow your question, I don't think that the report says that the Clinton that Mrs. Clinton was given more favorable treatment. I think what the report says is that the FBI exercised some considerable discipline in how it was going to approach those matters as compared to how the FBI people who were involved in Crossfire Hurricane approached Crossfire Hurricane. I think that's what the report says.
Why, Mr. Durham, would you leave out the glaring contrast between the FBI's public discussion of the Clinton investigation right before the election and its keeping confidential the Trump investigation? Wasn't that a glaring disparity in how they were both treated?
I don't know. I mean, the
Really don't know the
FBI,
answer to that question?
did, and Mr. Comey did what they did. I was asked to.
Yes, they did what they did, and in glaring contrast to how they treated the Trump investigation, which was kept secret before the election, whereas the Clinton investigation was discussed publicly, affecting the outcome. Isn't that correct?
I can tell you that the FBI had that information and sat on it for months before they acted in
Yes, gentleman's time
making
is
a public disclosure.
Mr. Durham, just so people remember what this is all about, let me ask you, the Mueller investigation revealed that Russia interfered in the 2016 election in sweeping and systemic fashion, correct?
That's correct.
And Russia did so through a social media campaign that favored Donald Trump and disparaged Hillary Clinton, correct?
The report says, yes.
And Mueller found that a Russian intelligence service hacked computers associated with the Clinton campaign and then released the stolen documents publicly. Is that right?
That report speaks for itself as well.
Mueller also reported that though he could not establish the crime of conspiracy beyond a reasonable doubt, he also said, quote, a statement that the investigation did not establish certain facts does not mean there was no evidence of those facts. That also appears in the report, doesn't it?
There's language to that effect, yes.
In fact, you cited that very statement in your own report, did you not, as a way of distinguishing between proof beyond a reasonable doubt and evidence that falls short of proof beyond a reasonable doubt?
Correct.
As an illustration of this, both Mueller and congressional investigations found that Trump's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, was secretly meeting with an operative linked to Russian intelligence named Konstantin Kilimnik, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And that Manafort, while chairman of the Trump campaign, gave that Russian intelligence operative the campaign's internal polling data, correct?
That's what I've read in the news, yes.
And that Manafort provided this information to Russian intelligence while Russian intelligence was engaged in that social media campaign and the release of stolen documents to help the Trump campaign, correct?
You may be getting beyond depth of my knowledge, but
well, let me say very simply, while Manafort, the campaign chairman for Donald Trump, was giving this Russian intelligence officer internal campaign polling data, Russian intelligence was helping the Trump campaign, weren't they?
I don't know that.
You
but
really
that
don't know
sounds right.
those very basic facts of the investigation?
I know the general facts, yes. Do I know that particular fact myself? No. I mean, I know that I've read that in the media.
And are you aware, Mr. Durham, that Mueller and congressional investigations also revealed that Don Jr. was informed that a Russian official was offering the Trump campaign, quote, very high-level and sensitive information, unquote, that would be incriminating if Hillary Clinton was part of, quote, Russia and its government support of Mr. Trump? Are you aware of that?
Sure, people get phone calls all the time from individuals who claim to have information like that.
Really, the son of a presidential candidate gets calls all the time from a foreign government offering dirt on their opponent? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think this is unique in your experience.
So you have other instances of the Russian government offering dirt on a presidential candidate to the presidential candidate's son. Is that what you're saying?
Would you repeat the question?
You said that it's not uncommon to get offers of help from a hostile foreign government in a presidential campaign directed at the president's son. You really stand by that, Mr. Durham?
I'm saying that people can make phone calls making claims all the time that you may have experienced.
Are you really trying to diminish the significance of what happened here and the secret meeting that the president's son set up in Trump Tower to receive that incriminating information? Are you trying to diminish the significance of that, Mr. Durham?
I'm not trying to diminish it at all, but I think the more complete story is that they met and it was a ruse and they didn't talk about Mrs. Clinton.
And you think it's insignificant that he had a secret meeting with a Russian delegation for the purpose of getting dirt on Hillary Clinton, and the only disappointment expressed in that meeting was that the dirt they got wasn't better. You don't think that's significant?
I don't think that that was a well-advised thing to do.
Not well advised.
Right.
Wow, that's the understatement of the year. So you think it's perfectly appropriate or maybe just ill-advised for a presidential campaign to secretly meet with a Russian delegation to get dirt on their opponent? You would merely say that's inadvisable?
Yeah, if you're asking me would I do it, I hope I wouldn't do it, but it was not illegal. It was stupid, foolish, ill-advised.
Well, it is illegal to conspire to get incriminating opposition research from a hostile government that is of financial value to a campaign. Wouldn't that violate campaign laws?
I don't know all those facts to be true.
Well, your report, Mr. Durham, doesn't dispute anything Mueller found, did it?
No, our object, our aim was not to dispute Director Mueller. I have the greatest regard, highest regard for Director Mueller. He's a patriot.
The only distinguishment between his investigation and yours is he refused to bring charges where he couldn't prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and you did. One of my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle took issue with my saying that the Trump campaign invited Russian help, received Russian help, made use of it, and then lied about it. So let's break this down. Let's go to invited Russian help. Mr. Durham, you're aware of Donald Trump's public statements along the lines of,
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails.
are you aware of that?
I'm aware of that.
And are you aware that Mueller found that hours after he made that plea for Russian help, the Russians in fact tried to hack one of the email servers affiliated with the Clinton campaigner family?
If that happened, I'm not aware of that. I mean, it could very well.
You're not aware of that in the Mueller report? So when you say you're not aware of evidence of collusion in the Mueller report, it's because you apparently haven't read the Mueller report very well. If you're not aware of that fact. But let me ask you about something else.
Sure.
Don Jr., when offered dirt as part of what was described as a Russian government effort to help the Trump campaign, said, if it's what you say, I love it. Would you call that an invitation to get Russian help with dirt on Hillary Clinton?
The words speak for themselves, I suppose.
I think they do. And in fact, he said, especially late in summer. Late in summer was around when the Russians started to dump the stolen emails, wasn't it?
Late in the summer, there was information that was disclosed by WikiLeaks in mid to late July. I think there had been some in June, and then there was maybe some later in October, was it? I think, but don't hold me to those dates.
And this gets to the receipt of help. The second thing I mentioned, receiving Russian help. The dumping of those emails, by the way, just as forecast by what Papadopoulos told the Australian diplomat, that is that the Russians would help by leaking dirt anonymously through cutouts like WikiLeaks and DC Leaks.
I don't think that's exactly what he told the Australians, but
Well, he said that he was informed that the Russians could help by anonymously releasing this information, right?
release what?
By anonymously releasing information damaging to Hillary Clinton, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you read what's in the cable and what's in the report as to what the diplomats reported was there was a suggestion of a suggestion that the Russians could help. They had damaging information as to Mrs. Clinton. And
By releasing it anonymously, right? And that's exactly what happened, isn't it?
I don't.
You really don't know?
I'm not sure exactly. When you say exactly what happened.
Well, the Russians released stolen emails through cutouts, did they not?
There were emails.
It's a very simple question. Did they release information, stolen information through cutouts, yes or no?
Yeah, I'm not sure that.
You really don't know the answer to that? The answer is yes, they did. Through DC League's
Well, in your mind, it's yes.
Well, Mueller's answer was yes. More important than mine, Mueller's answer was yes. Now, that information, of course, was helpful to the Trump campaign, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, but that the Russians intruded into,
Well, I just want to
hacked into the systems, they released information.
And that was helpful to the Trump campaign, right?
And the conclusion in the ICA and in the Mueller investigation was that the Russians intended to assist.
Can you answer my question, Mr. Durham? That was helpful to the Trump campaign, right?
Yeah, that's.
And Trump made use of that, as I said, didn't he, by touting those stolen documents on the campaign trail over 100 times?
Like I said, I don't really read the newspapers or listen to the news. That's what I've read in the news, yes. That I've read that in the media. I don't really read the newspapers or listen to the news. I don't find all that reliable, so I don't know that.
Mr. Durham, you're totally oblivious to Donald Trump's use of the stolen emails on the campaign trail more than 100 times? Did that escape your attention?
I am not aware of that.
This is the biggest political scandal since Watergate.
Emails.
Emails for the emails. Emails. New emails.
Emails.
Emails. Those emails.
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 And emails.
So it's deleted email. Emails. The emails. The emails. The emails. The 30,000 emails.
39,000 emails.
33,000 emails. Believe me.
I am not aware of that.
Are you aware of the final prong that I mentioned, that he lied about it, that the Trump campaign covered it up? It's the whole second volume of the Mueller report. I hope you're familiar with that.
Yeah, that's a section of the report, the second volume relating to was their obstruction of justice.
Well, thank you for confirming what my Republican colleague attacked me about.